Welcome to today's Growth and Inspire, where we will examine topics that make us feel inspired and grow. I'm your host, Bonnie Yam, and we will be posting frequently on topics to help you run your business better. It can be issues involving new regulations, taxes, planning for business growth, or just how to run your business more efficiently. Whether you're the CEO, CFO, or any C-suite members, this podcast is for you. We hope to bring you insights and discussion points, drill down on complexity to make it simple. Join us on this journey as we will have lots of interesting guests, such as business evaluators, insurance experts, finance, and bookkeeping experts. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review if you find what you hear is very interesting. Now, let's get started with today's episode. Today, our topic is bookkeeping. And with us today is Hugo Duran, CFO of ContextFee. Hello, Hugo. So happy to have you on our podcast. Before we
Hi,
start,
Bonnie.
yes, hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Before we start, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your company?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Hugo Duran, or some people say Hugo Duran. I am CFO, co-founder of ContextFi. I have an undergraduate degree in economics from the University of Texas, an MBA from the University of Southern California. Most of my life, I work in the corporate world. The last 4 or 5 years, I decided to start my own company and a couple of small projects, right? And ContextFi is one of them, where we provide a full service accounting, bookkeeping, fractional CFO services for small and medium businesses. Our focus is to help our community get educated, get their numbers right, get in compliance, and make sure that they grow. Because as an immigrant, we came to this country to live the American dream, and we start a lot of small businesses, but we fail because our numbers are not in order, because we don't do the right things with the IRS. And the core of that is making sure that bookkeeping's done correctly so they can do their taxes properly.
Back end is as much as important as the front end. We have to get it done properly. So, Hugo, can you describe what is the job of a bookkeeper? I know there are multiple levels. Like, what are they? I don't think people really understand. They just think bookkeeping is bookkeeping and help me get my taxes done. That's it.
So sure, yeah. I mean, I think there's a misconception of bookkeeping practically in the US, right? I mean, bookkeeping is, as it says, right, keeping your books in order, keeping your financial books in order, making sure that you've set up everything correctly, that if you have a business, you have a business account, that you're not commingling or mixing personal expenses with business expenses.
Very important.
Once that has been determined, once you've set up that, make sure that company is set up in the right entity, right? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then bookkeeping as a core is the same. You do the financial or the bank reconciliation each month. There's two types of accounting: cash and accruals. For the majority of the US small business owners, cash accounting is what is necessary. However, there's a set of businesses or trades, or after a while, your business may grow into having to do accrual. That is a lot more complex because it involves accounts receivables, it involves accounts payables, recognitions of fixed assets, and things to that matter. I'll go back to a lot of small businesses who are cash basis too. There's a point in time where they're going to go to a bank and ask for a line of credit or ask for a loan. the bank would love and they want to see accrual accounting. Sometimes it can be done and it can be done, but if you work and you invoice somebody and they pay you right away, or somebody bills you and you pay right away, there is really no AR, there's no AP. But however, that is the core of that. Now, different levels, and it depends on the complexity, right? I think there's different thresholds that you would say. It's just how soon do you want your work to be done, right? For the most part, in the US, the majority of the business or the bookkeeping, the deadline is the 20th of each month. So we agree to do something, we agree to do by the 20th. We provide a profit and loss, we provide a balance sheet, provide a cash flow, and that is done. And then we create a dashboard for those clients, and that is done by the 20th. However, there's some clients that have to do sales taxes. So their sales taxes are due on the 20th. So therefore, those reports are now due on the 15th. For that, because now there's priority to make sure that we get that done on the 15th, there is a charge for that. Now, if you need those reports to be done by the 10th or by the 5th of each month, right? That is a way for us to move resources and said make sure that this is a priority, and that costs us a little bit more for those. But the core of the work is being done. It's just done on a deadline.
Yeah.
On a deadline that it fits your schedule, that it fits the schedule of the small business owner. Some of them would like to see it twice a month. Some of them wants to see once a week. And that is great, because they want to be on top of what is happening. So all of that is part of the work that we're doing, and but the core of the work is being done by a bookkeeper who is highly trained, whether it's in QuickBooks Online or certified or on Zero, which is also a certification that is needed.
Well, I can tell that you're really into it, or the weeds of it. Deadline, when to get this done, the accrual, cash basis, and then why it's important. The banks looking at it. I know. Yeah, actually, I went to a conference and there are quite a few bankers there, and they look at the revenue numbers, top line of revenue numbers, and has to be done properly because that's where the money is coming from. So having a good bookkeeper at the back to help you manage the control what's going on to the books, super important. And you want it to be on a timely basis, because if you don't do it right, it gets worse and it gets so messy. So great. Can you comment, Ugo, like how, I think you already touched upon it, but how good bookkeeping can help someone grow their practice?
Absolutely. I mean, I think as with anything, right? If you have set up your books in order, you're able to understand
I think so too.
the different projects you can take on, right? If you're able to understand if your company is able to buy or lease new equipment, is able to expand and being able to hire new people as you continue to grow.
Yes.
You may be starting and you said, okay, as a landscaper, construction, or whatever it is, or you're saying, hey, I do fences and I would like to start doing this, and for Lowe's or for Home Depot. You have to have the right equipment. You have to have the right number of people, because if somebody gives you the opportunity to get a large project, you have to be able to deliver on what you say you can do. What happens if you can't do that? And you would not be able to know that unless you have a good understanding of what your books are.
Yep.
And once that happens, when you have a good understanding and you have your books in order, then you can go to the bank and says, look, here are my last 3 years of what I've done. And here are my projections. I need your help.
Yes. Yeah.
Give me a line of credit.
Yep.
Give me some capital.
Yeah. Basically align the risk and the opportunity when you see the numbers and they know, okay, what kind of cash flow you've got, what I do I need to help you with. And then if there's consistency year over year, that I know I'm probably going to get my money back. If you don't see any of that, I mean, how can you prove that to me that if I lend you this amount of money, I'm going to actually get it back? So bookkeeping is very important.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something that is very important, right? I mean, the banks are there to make money, right? They look at risk
Of course.
and they say, hey, am I going to get my money
Of course.
plus those interests? And if they said yes, absolutely, then they give you that.
Yeah,
If they
my
say
money.
no, if they say if for whatever reason they say no, that no matter how
Yeah,
solid your idea is, they always find an excuse. And our job and my job, as I tell my clients, is to make sure that we remove those excuses,
mm,
right? That those books are in order, that we're in compliance, that you've done your taxes, and that you're planning accordingly to scale, to grow.
mhm.
And that way, when you go to the bank doesn't use the
I
excuses.
know.
Oh,
I totally with you, because sometimes I see items that makes no sense up and down all the time. And then you ask them about it, they make excuses. Okay, how come the marketing expense is so high this year and all of a sudden becomes zero next year? What happened? Where do you put the money? Oh, it's okay. We don't think we need it. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of things like for somebody who's like Google, who can see the inconsistency. Maybe it's put another line, they forgot about it, the invoice they never paid, all that stuff. So it's always good to have somebody to help you look at the consistency of the numbers. If they see an error, give you a call. What happened? Fix it before somebody else sees it. So it's always good. Ugo, can you share some success stories of clients who literally turn their business around because they start paying attention to good bookkeeping?
absolutely, right. I mean, I think um, I through my experience, I will go back to our personal experience. My dad had a small business, but he never, well, when he first came, he didn't speak the language. Then he didn't know a lot of the things from that, right? So we struggle. He hired my mom to be, or he forced my mom to learn to use a computer, which she never really did. But they had a big notebook where they wrote everything and
That's in
who
the
owed them,
past.
and
You write
yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah. But at one point in time, they realized that they needed to, in order for them to
Have good
turn the page
records.
around, hire somebody. So somebody recommended somebody, and that person didn't speak Spanish and my dad didn't speak English. So I used to go, and be the translator. And I think I was 12, 13 years old, I'm like,
In
what
two
am I
rows.
translating? Yeah, exactly. So then I realized, this person, this accountant was a great guy and he helped my parents. Eventually my parents sold their company. That's just one example of the importance of accounting. I've met multiple people, in my life that, once they have an understanding of, of where their books are, they don't go back and drown themselves on debt, right? Because it's extremely important.
It's super, really super. Yeah.
You keep asking for loans because you think you need that, right? They always tell you the more money you owe them, the better you are for a bank. That's
I think that's crazy.
and that that may be that may not be, just depends, right? It just but at the same time for a small business, how if they don't know where their money is and how their money is being spent,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
So
their assets and their liabilities, then how could they
how do you
continue if
manage? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, how do you manage if you owe the IRS money or you're not in compliance and you're not done your taxes, then how can you go
I
with
have
the
another
operations?
I have another example. It's like somebody, okay, so like your revenue is not stable throughout the year, maybe just like it happens last quarter, but your expenses happen every single month. So if you don't manage your cash flow better, then a lot of times they don't care. They just say, okay, QuickBooks or whatever will help me fund whatever. But they have no idea that the interest rate is pretty high, double digits. And all you
Absolutely.
come on, you
And
say.
absolutely. I mean, there's a market for everything, right? I mean, there's people who need money and there's loans that the interest is daily, weekly, monthly, right?
All it takes
And
is, yeah,
and then you begin to drown.
it be
So
good
I mean,
planning.
yeah, and I mean, a great example is somebody that I told you. I mean, you know, it's they they have a very profitable business. You know, they're a construction company. However, they had no idea of where things were going. At the end of the year, when you know, when we first talked to them, and I says, "Did you know you make $4 million?" And they're like, "No, not really." You know, in sales, and they're like, "Okay, what are my expenses?" And says, "Oh, 300, 3.5." And so, so it shows that you have $500,000 in profit. And they're like, "No, I don't have that money." And
Crazy.
it's like, you know, it's like, well, that's what the bank says. You know, that's what,
Oh,
and
oh,
that's something that, you know,
oh.
at the end of each month you have profits. You know, at the end of each month you bring that together, you have net income of $500,000. Where is that money?
And you have to pay
And
taxes
it,
on it too.
yeah, and then you have to pay taxes on that. And as is more importantly, it's like,
Uh,
okay, now let's work on that
Figure
discipline.
it
Let's
out.
make sure
So important.
that we understand where you are each month, what needs to happen every month,
Exactly.
you
Otherwise,
know.
it's not your money. You don't even know where it is. So yeah,
Yeah,
make sure you
exactly.
have, yeah, in your bank. Yeah. Wonderful. So my last question for you goes, so how much do you think you should pay for your bookkeeping? Like maybe can you roughly talk about the different type of services you're gonna get for different level of services?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a standard market right now for in the US for great quality work, right? I mean, for people who are doing things right. Um, and and I think the pricing model many years ago used to be based on transactions, then on income. I think right now there's a standard that you know is based on monthly cost. So and there's a sliding scale, you could say. You know, if your expenses are less than 20,000, less than 30,000, less than $40,000 of monthly expenses, right?
Mhm.
From there, you can create a pricing model. You know, you understand your community better. You know, there are some communities that pay a lot of money, and then there are communities that don't. I mean,
Well, I
it's a
mean,
big,
the
yeah,
expense
and I give you I give you a very good example here in South Florida, in Broward and Fort Lauderdale, they tend to be, but if you go into Miami-Dade, they don't want to pay. They don't see the value. I mean, they don't see the value of having things in order, you know, and everybody knows it, and everybody says, "Oh, they're just cheap," and whatever it is that they don't see the value. And sometimes what has happened is tax preparers sometimes says, "Oh yeah, I can do a rough idea of what happened last month or last year. How much did you make? $700,000. What were your expenses?" And then you do a rough P&L on that Schedule C. And now when you're coming back to them and says, "Hey, let me do your books properly, but I'm going to charge you $250 a month." And he says, "Wait a minute, that is $3,000 for bookkeeping plus doing my taxes. Last year you only charged me $700 for doing that." You know, and I think there is a big disconnect there, but we have to educate our people to appreciate the trade that accountants and bookkeepers
I think so
are
because
doing.
yeah, if you make a mistake,
Because yeah, because as you said, right, if mistakes are done, then they're very pricey.
money, yeah, very
Yeah,
expensive.
absolutely.
Yeah, you
And
don't want to, yeah.
so I think the starting line, you know, I think should be between 200 and $250 a month. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, there are small clients that love to be in compliance, and sometimes you're like, "Oh my God, you don't even make $100,000 a year." But they want to be in compliance. They want to do things right. So you could scale that a little bit, but for the most part, I think $250 is a good price
because you take a
for
lot of
that.
responsibility
Mm.
to, making sure the numbers are correct. And then, the consequences, if you don't do it correctly, you get the letter from IRS.
Yeah, and that is the worst feeling, even if it's just every, at least when it happens to me, I get a letter saying, hey, this is not something. It's like, but when a client brings it, they're like, okay, you could see it in their faces, you could sense it that they're like, hey, something, and that is not a good feeling. You want to be in compliance. True, audits happen, but if you're doing things right, there's nothing to fear.
Yeah, that's true. All right, wonderful. I really love the presentation, and thank you so much for the time today. If we have our expert here, Ugo, so anybody who needs help, you can certainly reach out to us, and we'll connect you with Ugo. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a review. Your feedbacks will help us improve and make our contents even better. And don't forget to subscribe and follow us on social media. And if you have any questions, comments, topic suggestions, feel free to reach out to us. I would love hearing from our listeners. Join us. Next podcast will be tax resolution. So if you have errors, you probably want to listen to that one. It's something we all want to get a little bit more education on. So let's keep learning. Until next time, stay inspired. Thank you very much.